Radio.
Let me tell you who we are talking to. Today on the show, you'll be hearing from our very own Fentuo, Tahiru Fentuo, a.k.a. Salah. Also, Muftawul Nabila Abdulai is joining us via Zoom because he is in Ivory Coast. Daniel Koranteng of Joy Sports and George Adu Jr., who of course has been helming commentary in Cote d'Ivoire, is also joining us via Zoom. So, gentlemen, good morning to you all. It's great to have you.
Good morning, Kojo.
Fantastic.
Good morning, it's great to be here.
Yeah, always a pleasure. All right, so listen, guys, I think I'll start with the gang in Ivory Coast, okay? And Muftawul, you tell us, at what point did the fans realize that once again the Black Stars have done their thing?
I think from the 80th minute, when I started seeing some of them begin to walk out of the stadium, I'm sure at that point they felt that the Black Stars were not in a position to win. They started walking out. So in fact, some of them did not even see the winning goal of the Verde. From where I was seated, I could clearly see faces of disappointment. I could clearly see faces of people who had given up, and faces of people who felt that these Black Stars, these are the Black Stars that inspired confidence. Because you would realize that in the latter part of that game, the body language of the players clearly showed that they were in to try and get a draw. They were not going in for a win. If they were going in for a win and the supporters were cheering them on, at that point you could clearly tell. But it was unfortunate that the body language of the players did not suggest that this was a team that was willing to go all out there and win. And in fact, George Adu Jr. is joining us. I was a bit closer to him when he was doing commentary with Adebayo. And if you took a look at even people who are well experienced in this game, they could clearly tell you that no, these are not the Black Stars of yesteryears. In fact, I spoke to Claude Leroy, a former coach of the Black Stars, and he said this team is very bad. So, indeed, the team is bad, but hopefully they'll answer the questions of every single Ghanaian on Thursday.
I'll be bringing George in just a moment. But before that, Daniel, give us the latest. We understand that there was an attempt to attack the coach after the game. What happened?
Yes, an unidentified fan at the team hotel reportedly tried to attack head coach Chris Hughton, but it took the intervention of some people who were at the hotel to save him. And the fan has been handed over to the Ivorian police. So we'll wait to see what happens with him. But obviously, that
story is not entirely accurate.
Oh, really?
That story is not entirely accurate. I spoke to the officials who were there, CAF officials for that matter. The incident indeed happened. The fan was angry. He was abusing Chris Hughton verbally, and security took him away. He hasn't been arrested.
Oh, so okay. So the event, the incident happened, but it didn't result in an arrest, is what you're saying.
It didn't result in an arrest. It didn't result in an attack of Chris Hughton.
Right. Okay. Well, a verbal attack at least, not a physical one. Okay. Thank you for that. Now, Daniel, look, the expectation going into this tournament for the Black Stars, as always, was high. Not just from Ghanaian fans, but from onlookers around the world who understand the pedigree of Ghanaian football. But Chris Hughton, in the run-up to this, has not instilled a lot of confidence in Ghanaians that he was poised to win this. What would you say were the cardinal mistakes that led to this 2-1 defeat?
To be honest, the drop in confidence in the Black Stars didn't start with Chris Hughton. The team has been poor for quite a while. At the last AFCON, that was 2 years ago, we dropped out in the group stages, finished bottom of our group. And results since then have not necessarily inspired confidence. And it's been under, 2 or 3 different coaches. So, yes, in as much as outside this country, expectations were high, obviously. If you look at the quality that we have in our squad, most Ghanaians, at least before the competition, if you gauge the temperature, didn't really expect the Black Stars to go all the way and win the competition. There was some skepticism about the team's chances. But in yesterday's game, especially after the lineup was named, I think, especially with the inclusion of Majid Ashimero, something that most Ghanaian fans wanted from the off. They wanted him to start because there was a clear problem with our midfield in subsequent or previous games. And to see him included in the starting lineup inspired a little bit of confidence. At least we felt that we'll have a much better performance. But it didn't necessarily translate to that. In the first half, we saw Ghana didn't start too well. But I personally felt that even when we had the negative momentum, we were able to defend well enough and not allow Cape Verde to have too many opportunities. And then the goal went in for Cape Verde. Which for me, goalkeeper could have done better, but of course, you pick yourself up and you try and fight back. I also felt that had Majid Ashimero's goal been granted, it would have been a completely different game because that completely lifted the momentum of the team, only for VAR to review it, for it to be scrapped off. So it was
and once again, for the benefit of those who missed the game, what did the VAR reveal that resulted in the disqualification of the goal?
Okay, so Ransford Iwa Koningsdorfer was in an offside position, and he was directly in the eyesight of the eye line of the Cape Verde goalkeeper. So he was basically blocking his view. So that was deemed as an obstruction.
Right.
And then as a result, the goal was scrapped off. So that was the reason. And the Black Stars came back in the second half much, much better. In fact, they began to string passes together, looked like momentum was coming. And then Jiku got that equalizer. But once that equalizer went in, you asked me about cardinal mistakes. I think there was a triple substitution that happened a couple of minutes after that equalizer. And that's what undid the team. Joseph Fentuo was having a very good game, tormenting the left back of Cape Verde. Semenyo was doing a very good job up top, drawing defenders in. Good link-up play with Joseph Fentuo. Both of them were taken off. And then we saw Enes Nyama and Andre Ayew come on. And I felt that if any winger should have been taken off up until that time, it should have been Jordan Ayew. Because Jordan Ayew had done his shift. He had put in a good shift up until that point. But what you needed was energy and fire in the Verve to go on and attack the game. And in that stead, Fentuo was already doing a good job. If you are bringing Nyama, who brings in that extra spark, then Jordan should have gone off. I think we should have maintained Semenyo on the pitch and continue the momentum with the guys who were actually providing the fire on the pitch up until that time. But they went off, a new group came on, and we sort of started playing. You could tell from the way the Black Stars were playing. They were playing to try and keep the result at 1-1. And then a calamitous mistake at the end from Mohamed Salisu, loss of concentration. Richard Ofori may also say he's culpable for the second goal, his decision to come out and not grab it. And the Black Stars have lost. This is not the way anybody wanted to start the competition, especially because Egypt dropped points and we know they are coming with fire on Thursday. So now our chances look really, really slim.
Well, tragically accurate summation there of the game. Daniel, thanks for that. Now, George, let's talk about the ebb and flow of the game. I mean, 15 shots on target. It was 15 shots at goal by Cape Verde with 5 of them on target. Black Stars had only 1 shot on target, and that was the one that ended up as a goal. From the commentary box, George, I mean, tell us how did this game look? Did it even see? Oh, we are yet to have George Ado join us. Okay, forgive me. I'll have Fentuo, deal with that. Watching that game and knowing the teams involved, Black Stars and Cape Verde, I mean, did the flow of that game even, could you recognize the teams for what they are supposed to be in that game?
Well, I'll be honest with you and tell you that the AFCON as a competition has never been won by the team with the most talented players. It's been won with the team with the most determination, the one with a plan, and the one with players who are willing to die for their country. Now, if you notice, after the game, the post-match interviews, 2 players who spoke to journalists used one word repeatedly. Alexander Djiku was named man of the match. He was largely praised for his commitment, for his desire, and his general application in the match. Dennis Odoi, another very experienced player, struggled a little bit in that game. After the game, the two of them said exactly the same thing. They said the players, they themselves, the team lacked aggression.
Wow.
He said they lacked aggression, they left too many spaces for the opponents. And that just brings me back to something that we have been saying all along about this Black Stars team. And that it is not necessarily the lack of talent that is hurting the team, but that the players themselves, and we'll talk about the coaching, we'll get to that, but then the players themselves in certain moments have not shown themselves to be as determined and as committed as they should be. Now, after the game, Jordan Ayew said something. He attributed the team's defeat to lack of experience in the squad. And then he specifically said more than 10 players in the Black Stars team lacked experience. And he said it's the truth, and that affected them. And I'll say that is nonsense. Yes, it is true. 19 out of the 27 players Ghana took to the AFCON were playing in their first AFCON match. But Verde, who beat Ghana, also had 17 new players who are playing in their first AFCON game.
Can I put that in context?
So really, how does that...
hang on, I'll come to you in a moment.
How does that excuse wash? Then you watch the game between Mozambique and Egypt. And Mozambique's, they even named a 23-man squad, not 27 players. And out of that, only 2 of them have previously played at an AFCON. One of them is a 40-year-old. They played against an Egypt team that started 7 players who also started the final 2 years ago when they lost against Senegal. So vast experience, and yet Mozambique showed heart and desire, match up to the Egyptians. And if anybody didn't watch that game and they told you the scoreline was 2-2, you would think it's Mozambique who were lucky. But anyone that watched the game, you know that it's Egypt who were lucky to have escaped that game with a draw. And that Mozambique actually deserved to win. So, all of that backs the point I'm making. That it is not the lack of experience, because Mozambique have made nonsense of that. Verde has made nonsense of that. We had more experienced players on the pitch than Verde. We had more experienced players playing at this AFCON than Mozambique. And yet, we didn't see any evidence of the so-called 10 days of training or behind closed doors of training. The tactics they have been working on, I don't think that was evident on the pitch. The coach had so many deficiencies. First of all, in his team selection. In my opinion, I think it has been a very weird thing about Chris Hughton since he took over the job. And that is his wrong profiling of players. I think many people were excited to see Ashimeru Koningsdorfer start. The problem was the deployment of personnel. Specifically where he played Koningsdorfer, Ransford de Yeboah. The kid has never played there, not for his club, not for the country. And yet, in the biggest game of his career, his first game at the AFCON, you go and play him in a position he has never played in before. The result is what we saw. He was a mere passenger in the game. Literally, he was set up to fail, and he failed spectacularly. Then you look at the way we conceded the goal. The first goal. Poor. Salisu gets dragged into midfield, leaves a gaping hole. Jiku comes across to cover him, and then he misses the tackle. The cutback comes in, the shot comes, the goalkeeper with his experience punches the ball back into play instead of maybe punching it wide. And then after the game, he also goes into the post-match and he says he did the best that he could, but it is his teammates who didn't do their job by clearing the rebound. There were so many instances in the second half that just absolutely buttresses the point I'm making about commitment. There was one instant, Baba Idrisi takes the ball, edge of his own penalty box. He's touching the ball, he's shifting it, and he's robbed off of possession, edge of the box, free kick in a very dangerous area. Where is your mind? Where is your mind? Salisu's passing, and this is a guy we sent a delegation of elders to go and beg to come and play for the national team.
But Fentuo, let me ask you a very simple question. How many matches had Salisu played before we brought him to the Black Stars?
3 games. He had been
games.
injured for 7 months. So you can give him a pass for that.
That's what I'm trying to say.
But he didn't select himself.
No, but that's what the coach's problem.
That's what we're getting to the coaching.
Yes.
So clearly he's lacked match fitness.
Yes.
Because he had been injured for 7 months. Only came back in December, and he's played 3 games for Monaco this season before we threw him right into the deep end. It was telling because he looked very lethargic.
Yes.
Having said that, the coach had many opportunities to impact the game from the bench.
You're coming to the coach now, right?
Yes.
Okay, hang on, because I want Muftawul to make that point he had wanted to make before we move on to the coach, because the coach is a whole topic. Muftawul. Yeah.
So I just wanted to provide some context to what Fentuo was saying about the comments Jordan and you made at a mixed zone when we spoke to him. The conversation lasted about 3 to 4 minutes. And in as much as he spoke about the inexperience in the team, he said, we cannot continue to make excuses with inexperience. He said, we cannot continue to make excuses that we are in a rebuilding process. It's about time people take responsibility and perform. They've got a talent. They need to work hard. This thing of always saying that we are inexperienced, we are rebuilding, is not acceptable. Those were the words of Jordan Ayew. And in fact, I'm actually sending that video to him to post it on our socials.
All right.
He also added that we are a group of players who play professional football outside the country, and the errors we make are not acceptable. That's the context I wanted to provide.
All right. Thank you for that. Very important. Thanks for that. All right. On to the coach.
Yeah, but Coach, before we go on to the coach, I mean, this point that I'll make would also be, before we get, you see, Fentuo has made a very valid point. How in God's name, Chris Hughton, of all the years that you've coached, and I agree, Koningsdorfer, that's the name.
Yeah, Koningsdorfer.
Ransford Yeboah. You know, I felt bad for the young man.
We have just jettisoned the Koningsdorfer.
I mean, I felt very bad for the young man.
Yeah.
Because here you are, you didn't play anything, and even when we scored a goal, you were in the goalkeeper's this thing. So, interference with play. End of story.
So didn't contribute on the other end, and then at the other end as well, someone else's contribution was nullified by his interference.
In fact, I initially thought that the ball may have hit his hand, you know, when it hit the post.
The first instant, it did. But then there was a lot more touches after that before the shot.
So then I was like, okay, but that's the point. Baba Idrisu didn't do well.
No, he wasn't great.
Baba Idrisu wasn't great. So, I mean, Odoi struggled. Even Gideon Mensah at the point was struggling. Look, I have a problem. And I mean, it actually fits into Chris Hughton's approach to a game. You have Pencil, fantastic on the day.
Especially in the second half.
Yes. And you have Semenyo taking on, sometimes moving to the wings from where Jordan is supposed to play, cutting in, taking on defenders. And I was suggesting that if you want to take, I mean, at that point in time, look, let's face it, sometimes, yes, Jordan was doing well, but sometimes it gets to the point where you realize that some of your players may be aging and may have played a lot of games.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, you let them relax and bring in fresh, young ones. So Nyama comes in. I mean, Semenyo is still very young. He could still play for a very long time. You want to bring on Inaki Williams? No problem. I ask myself the simple question, and Daniel Koranteng makes the point that the substitutions, what did we bring the day to come and do in that game?
No, it's a fair question because, to be honest, I thought the day's introduction reduced the tempo a little bit. It took Ghana's tempo down a little bit, and the psychology of that change is hard to see. I don't know if he brought him on to try and get a goal for Ghana, but then the rest of his substitutions, taking off, for example, Ashimeru and bringing on Saleh, looked like a very defensive approach.
Exactly.
So it was almost like he's content with the game ending in a draw, when in actual fact, he should have been chasing a win. But yesterday, in a conversation with Daniel, you know, he He pointed out something that he said sometimes when things are going against you, luck also seems to just elude you. Because in all fairness, that Ashmeru goal, if it stood, the dynamics of the game
of course, it would have changed. It would have changed. But you see, this is the other point. You see, sometimes you probably would understand the coach too. Because contrary to, well, I am not a coach, but contrary to what we may have expected, the Cape Verdeans were very quick on the ball.
I think we knew that. Everybody knew that.
I say, well, I mean,
their transitions were rapid.
I tell you, particularly Baby Boy, those guys were dealing with our players. So when you had reached a point, and I think that, you see, when you reached a stage where it had become very difficult for you, because you had brought on Dede and,
he couldn't match the pace
of the game. So now what do? You don't bring him in and take him out. You can't do that. You can't disgrace your captain that way.
Yeah.
So what do? You actually protect what you have, because it was becoming very difficult for us at that point. When we equalized, anyway, I mean, actually trying to, score, it had become very difficult for us. And Dede, apart from the first 5 minutes, let's be very honest, didn't impact the game for the next 25 minutes. So I can understand why you have, a Chris Hughton at that point in time deciding to actually bring in another defensive midfielder just to try, if for nothing at all, not concede. Because at that point, the game had become difficult for the Black Stars.
All right, Gary has joined us now, Gary L. Smith. And of course, Gary, good to have you. You were, right there in the in the commentary box. Maybe you can settle the issue for us. Was it the players or was it the coach?
I think there's George who was in the commentary box.
Forgive me, Gary. Forgive me. I'm.
Mixing.
You see how confused these boys have made me, eh? Gary, you're off in England somewhere, but it's great to have you. I'm sure you watched the game, with as much trepidation as we did.
Yes.
So what's the verdict?
Black Stars did a number. The Black Stars did a number on me because, prior to the tournament and the game, in all my previews, I have been very, very cautious in saying that even if we advance to the next round, it will be an achievement based on our recent performances and recent history in the African Cup. And then the game is about to start. I hear the national anthem, and this national anthem that will kill all of us one day in a good way. You understand? The national anthem that stirs so much, and I felt like, oh yes, and forevermore, and I feel like we are going to win 3-0. You see what Ghana does to all of us. But Kojo, I think first of all, as I have consistently said, I cannot reconcile the Chris Hughton we thought we had with the Chris Hughton we have, because a lot of the things, Kojo, I believe boiled down to the taking of instructions. It is mind-boggling to me, and I think that, everybody on this discussion will attest to it, that the way our players can take instructions for simple things at club level, they are unable to do that in the national team. For me, we can mention names of individual players, but that is what stands out for me. Some of our key players are able to, if you watch them at the club level, the kind of passing they pass, their body movement, they are running into spaces, the simple things that we expect that is why they were chosen. In fact, that is why for most of us, we felt like we might have had certain players who were injured and so could not be part of this squad to the AFCON. But these 27 we have, they are not a bad team at all, and I've been consistent on that. How we cannot get a decent performance, and I want to underline that. You see, I don't think Ghanaians are insensitive to the fact that our national team is in transition. But, they just want to see some decent commitment and football. We are not getting. And that is why I say that it is a Chris Hughton problem. Indeed, when you listen to his post-match and you listen to the voices played by Fentuo this morning, they are in your cue box. And so you might want to play them. Richard Ofuri, the goalkeeper, is blaming his colleagues. It is incredible. It doesn't happen at this level. You know, because Kojo, you know that at this level, you watch some football, players will typically all take the blame for it. That is the way it works.
Yeah.
But Alexander Jiku, if you play his cue, you will listen. You will hear. Alexander Jiku is blaming the lack of aggression. Fentuo, please, who was it again? Whose voice again did you play?
Yes, in fact, it was Jiku and Dennis Odoi. Both of them used the exact same
Dennis
words.
Odoi blamed the lack of aggression. And you know, Kojo, when players at this level say that, it is a very nice way in English of saying that we are not being coached properly. That's it. That is it.
Well, listen.
That is it.
We're gonna take.
I had not seen the cues, Kojo. Let me just. I had not heard the voices because I had not seen it. So when I listened to Sports Center this morning and I heard them say it, it was all the confirmation I needed that even the players themselves are not understanding why the team is not operating at the level they are supposed to. And that's where I'll leave it for somebody else to speak.
Yeah, that's quite an insight there, Gary. But I mean, Winston, the analysis all seems to be pointing in one direction. It seems that everybody agrees with you that this one was a coaching problem.
And Kojo, we are privileged to have Christopher Nimley, who's a coach and a sports analyst. So since it's a coaching problem, let's start from the coach. Let the coach tell us what he makes of his colleague coach, Chris Hughton.
Yeah, Christopher, good morning. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you too for having me.
All right, we're happy to hear your take on the coach.
Yeah, without a doubt. I want to say a very good morning to every Ghanaian listening to Joy FM this morning. The problem of the Black Stars fundamentally has been coaching. Coaching in such a way that tactically, not only Chris Hughton, but the entire technical team, they've proven not to be up to the task. From the players they've selected into the national team, I've got serious issues with that. Everybody know my stand on the matter, because I don't see why we should go to a major tournament like this without some of our best players. Because every country out there in Cote d'Ivoire, but for injury, have presented their strongest force. I don't think the Black Stars of Ghana is at full strength at that tournament, and has to do with the coaches not being up to the work, and the people at the Ghana Football Association not swallowing and putting aside their egos and allow this country to benefit from its own natural resources that God has given to it in terms of the quality players that were dropped or that were not given a look in. Now, when you go back to what happened yesterday, from the very beginning of the game, the team sheet, the selection, it had serious coaching issues. Number one, I have already said that there should be no reason why Richard Ofori should be in goal. He was at fault for the first goal. He was to some extent at fault for that second goal again. Because this is a goalkeeper who has not been active for the past 2 years. Anytime he's been in goal, he's been in goal at the national level. And that cannot be the case. He needs to merit the position in the team. He's not playing regularly at club level, and therefore he's very rusty. A goalkeeper who doesn't believe that he can always make one save on any ball that comes to him is problematic. Now, if you look at that choice of Richard Ofori, problem number one, I think it should have been Lawrence Atizigi, because Ati has been consistent, both at national level and at club level. Again, the coaches have disappointed us there. My second point, if you've got a player severally and you've never seen the need to use him in a competitive game, the only time we've seen him play is in friendly games. How then do you ask that player to go and fill the shoe of your star man? I'm referring to Ransford Yeboah Konindafa. There was no way he should have started the game yesterday. Now, if you want to give the coaches the benefit of the doubt, if you're going to start him, you play him where he's most comfortable. Because that is the least you can do for his confidence. He's not been playing in a competitive game with the team. So when you are going to play him, put him where he understands the role. Then you would have done something, at least you would have given him a foundation to build upon. Again, the technical team did not do that. Look, I have always said, for me, I'm tired. I'm tired with this Jordan Ayew striker, most dribble, most what? It comes down to zero. In a tournament like this, how can you be asking the player to play on the wings when he's not got genuine pace? Look, nobody can tell me, no matter how the evolvement of football or the extent to which football has evolved, one of the basic attributes, I repeat, one of the basic attributes of a winger or of wide players is their speed. They don't compromise on that. I've always said that Jordan Ayew lacks genuine pace to go past any fullback. He will not go past any fullback. Juxtapose it alongside that of Joseph Pencil on the opposite flank. Pencil, by far, in that first half, by far until his substitution, was one of our best attacking players. Because he's a natural winger, when he picks up the ball, he runs at the fullback, take him on a 1v1 situation, and go past him with ease. And most of our decent chances came from that side of the field. Now, I don't understand why our coaches cannot see this basic attribute of who a winger is. Because Jordan Ayew, in my view, has got the quality to play as a number 9 or to play behind the main striker. What Doffa was doing there, Jordan could have been used there, and a typical winger like Osman Bukari or Enes Nyoma could have given us enough width. Because yesterday, our left back, Gideon Mensah, virtually struggled defensively. He couldn't handle the pacey, very skillful, silky winger of the Cape Verde team. So Gideon needed to focus fundamentally on his defensive duty. But because Jordan will not go to the byline, he always looked to cut onto his right foot and all that, even that without any genuine pace. Anytime we had proper weight from the left, it took Gideon Mensah to give us that weight to put in the crosses. And his recovery was very soft because the Cape Verde saw that side of the field was very, very a good side for them. So where he goes, by the time they recover the ball, they attack us directly from that side, thereby drawing our two centre-backs out of position. That is coaching. Again, look, the midfielder, I've forgotten his name, the one who played as the DM yesterday. Where's him? Could you please remind me of his name? Baba Idrisu. Oh, my goodness. I have never seen a DM who cannot pass the ball. Fundamentally, look, my brother, there are attributes to every department in the game. And some of these attributes are basic. For every footballer, for every DM, fundamentally, you pick the ball from your goalkeeper or you pick the ball from your centre-back, and you should be able to pass the ball. Baba Idrisu cannot pass the ball forward. And that is taking away a lot from our game in our transitional play. Anytime he goes vertical, he gives the ball away. Yesterday, we paired him with Ashimero. Ashimero, beautiful going forward, but defensively, very, very poor. Because at the end of the day, what Ashimero couldn't do yesterday was to isolate Baba Idrisu with the guys in the midfield. That would have meant that we would have punished who would have been punished. So tactically again, Ransford, who was playing as the number 10, our coaches should have seen. Masawu Didi Dramani should have seen. George Boateng should have seen. Chris Hughton should have seen. We've got a video analyst there. Didn't they see that? We were being outnumbered in midfield, and therefore Ransford should have dropped a bit deeper when we are not in possession of the ball to supplement or to complement the gap between Baba Idrisu, Ashimero, and himself. So that would be a bit compact there. Because, look, I believe that in the game of football, the team that is in possession of the ball is the most vulnerable defensively. That is why when you watch Man City, when you watch Liverpool, when they lose the ball high up the pitch, they do everything tactically and practically possible to stop the game from being transited into their half because they know that defensively they are out of shape. We could have drawn it and lured them onto ourselves and punished them. That was how come we defeated them in 2013. They were the better team in possession of the ball. But we had Wakaso, we had Asamoah, we had the late Christian Achu, Andre Ayew. At the time he was not in that competition. So you ask yourself, with all the technical men we've got there, are they not seeing the basic things? Maybe my last point, and I give somebody else the chance to talk. I was of the view that if we don't define a role for our captain, we would have made the worst decision ever by taking the day to this tournament. I believe sincerely that the World Cup should have been his last tournament. He's been around for 17 years. He's given us quality services. We've rewarded him as a country. But when your time is due, your time is due. That change to introduce the day into the game, I couldn't believe it. Go back and watch the clip. Before the tactical switch was made, we saw our three coaches standing together and jaw-jawing, agreeing to disagree. And when they eventually agreed, that was what they could see. Goodness me. To bring the day into that number 10 role, to slow down our play, to prevent us from going forward. I couldn't believe it when I saw that. For once, if the technical team are honest and sincere, we lost the game from the bench. The selection, the team coaching, management of the game, and the substitution were all not spot on. How could you keep Osman Bukhari, one of our genuine threat of goals and creativity and genuine pace on the wings? But the moment we considered the second goal, you now saw the need to pull out Jordan and give Osman Bukhari 2 minutes, virtually 2 or 3 minutes, to go and impact the game. The substitution was there. It was obvious to have been made. At least with about 18, 20 minutes to the end of the game, I would have taken off Jordan Ayew, because at that moment, we needed proper pace into the game. So once Enes Nyama had come in for Joseph Pencil, Osman Bukhari would have been doing the same on the left-hand side.
Coach, that's some deep analysis, and we appreciate your perspective there, your tactical perspective. I want to bring in Daniel, because there was something you had wanted to say about the coach before the break. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely brilliant from Coach Christopher Nimley. Look, even with the selection, okay, and Coach touched on it a bit, the role that was given to Koningsdorfer, I think he was set up to fail. Not necessarily him playing as the number 10, but how they asked him to play it. Because when we were defending from the front, when we were pressing from the front, he went to join Semenyo in a 4-4-2. And the gap between Semenyo and Koningsdorfer was so huge. And I'm sure in one of the voices you played, one of the players said there was too much space in between the lines, which allowed the opposition to capitalize on. When you are pressing from a front two, the next batch of players, the middle block, must also follow and close that gap. Because every attacking coach, every coach, when he's training his team, tries to create patterns that will force the opposition to create spaces in between the lines. That is how everybody punishes teams. So if you, from the off, just allow them and give them that freedom by allowing your front two to go forward and press and leaving the middle block stationed in the middle zone, allowing all that space, then the press is basically useless. And after the front two were bypassed, that huge space was occupied by only Koningsdorfer. So even on the break, when he picks up the ball, he was too isolated. And you see, even if you put a specialist number 10 there, that specialist number 10 will struggle. Because what he meant is that he has to turn and take on about 3 or 4 players before he'll be able to find a teammate. So structurally, we were poor. Then another player who was also set up from the off, Baba Idrisu, got a very early yellow card. And from then, he started playing very safe, because no sensible player will want to rush into and show a little bit of a spike of a passion and then end up being sent off. From that moment, he should have been taken off, because his lax attitude on the pitch, which for me I understood because he was on a yellow card, impacted Ashimeru on the day. So as a proactive coach, you take him off, bring in Salis, who is fresh, who can also do the defensive job, and then you revert back to normal in what you were doing. And then the third one also, I understand why certain players were selected on the day, but the game is played in phases. Football is played in phases. The way the game ended isn't the way it started. So when you start a player like Jordan Ayew, up until the point where Jiku scored the goal, he had created the most chances. He was doing really well. But at that point, and I mentioned it earlier, at that point, Ghana had momentum. There was a certain intensity in the game that we needed to continue because that is what was upsetting the Cape Verdeans. On the right-hand side, Pinso's pace was terrorizing them. Semenyo's pace, when he switched to Jordan, went onto the wings, Jordan went into the center. Semenyo on the left-hand side was terrorizing them. In fact, if everybody remembers, when we drew it at 1-1, we had one big chance to go for it 2-1. When Semenyo went on the left-hand side, took on 2-3 players, crossed it to Joseph Pinso, who missed on the far post. That was a very good opportunity. Now, straight after that chance is missed, then I really don't understand how the coach literally takes the two players who were involved in creating the best opportunity for Ghana on the day and then replaces them with players who come and slow it down. Look, if Dede was to come on, if it was very important for Dede to come on, and you see at 1-1, when you look at your bench, you look at somebody who can come and nick a goal, there are two things. It's either you are sticking Dede up top and taking Jordan off to bring more pace, attack through the wings, and swing in as many balls as possible for Dede to attack. Because if you guys remember, on game plan, we mentioned that the Verdes, throughout their qualifying period, from the World Cup qualifiers up until the AFCON qualifiers, they have struggled with dealing in crosses. Now think about it yesterday. In the first half, the sequence that led to Ashimero's goal, the one that Koningsdorfer hit the post, it came from a cross. The goal we scored, it came from a cross. Semenyo swinging it across the face of the goal to Pinso, it came from a cross. Most of our very good chances came from crosses. So we were right when we did our homework with Cape Verde. They struggle with crosses. Now, if you have somebody who is as good as Dede in the box, why would you bring him on and keep him in and around the box, but not in the box? And then keep Jordan on, and then it just sucked the life out of the team. And not because they are bad players, but the timing of the substitution, not reading what the game needed and applying the right players to effect it. That is where the coaching let us down. Because look, as Gary said earlier on, you can talk what you want about the squad, but this squad of players, yes, we are missing some of our best players, but they have the quality to be able to effect certain games if the coaching is right. They actually have the quality. You look on the bench and there was Bukari. At the point, if Bukari came on, he could easily have effected the game. And another thing I didn't understand, when he brought on Nyama, and this is a very telling observation, everybody should just take a listen to this. When he brought on Nyama, for the first 5 minutes of Nyama's involvement in the game, he was playing on the left-hand side. Jordan had been switched to the right. And Nyama was terrorizing the right back of Cape Verde, only for him to be switched to the right-hand side. Now, what that happens is that when you're a left-footed player, when you're playing inverted wingers, okay, and you need to inject some pace into the game, once you go past your man, you are taking an extra 1 or 2 seconds by bringing the ball back onto your favorite foot before you can effect a cross. The reason why we're having a lot of luck down the right-hand side with Joseph Pinso when he was on the pitch, and the 5 minutes that Nyama played on the left-hand side as a left footer, was because once they go past their man, they can hit a cross because they are already on their favorite foot. And that was working. So the way we reverted back to inverted wingers was, up to now, I still don't understand why we did that. Because once it happened, I just knew that, no, this thing wasn't going to work.
And there are many who agree with you, Daniel. Thank you so much for that. I'm sorry, but we have to wrap this thing up. Time is not on our side. Big thanks to Gary L. Smith, Daniel Amwating, Fentuo, Tahiru Fentuo, who's here. Pardon? Pardon? Daniel Koranteng.
Hey.
Who is Daniel Amwating?
Ask yourself. Ask yourself.
The boys have confused me. They have confused me. Daniel Koranteng, of course, Fentuo, Tahiru Fentuo, and Muftawul Nabila Abdulai, who is right there in Ivory Coast for us. And of course, we heard analysis from Christopher Nimley. We're very grateful to him too. Charlie.
Ojo, you want a stat that will blow your mind? This is a stat that will blow your mind. In Ghana's last 10 AFCON matches, the Black Stars have won 1 match. That is how badly the Ghana has fallen off. In AFCON, 10, it means that, and those 10 matches we're talking about, come across
since 2017.
4 AFCON tournaments.
So
we've just been going to the tournaments. One victory.
We've only won one game.
Yes, and that one game was the last group game of AFCON 2019.
It's okay. Stop. Please call us, okay? 0302-216-541, 055-111-997. Let's take a few calls. I'd love to hear what you think about what happened yesterday. 0302-216-541, 055-111-997. While we're waiting for that first call, a quick happy birthday to John Bintum Rule of Republic Investment and Vice President of Rut Mix Company Limited. Wishing you a year full of bliss and blessings. Enjoy your day. This is from your sweetheart and the entire family. All right, Nana is on the line from Spintex. Nana, good morning.
Good morning.
Talk to us yesterday.
It baffles me. Chris Hughton, does he have a coaching badge? Because this is serious. I mean, listening to Chris Nimley's elaboration on the game, you can see that even a layman can see all the tactical deficiencies in the game yesterday. I don't know if Chris Hughton really has a badge, and what is his role in for coaching Ghana. I just don't get it. It's totally absurd. Yesterday's game was so easy for us to win with all the quality we had. We had players sitting on the bench, Osman Bukari, Nyama, who were natural wingers who could have just gone on to put in crosses, and we would have won this game easily. Even when we...
Oh, seems we've lost Nana there. Let's talk to Daddy Seth at Nungwa. Daddy Seth, good morning.
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Give us your verdict in some 30 seconds, please.
I have just 2 questions for the coach. I want to know if he has some covenant with Tahiru or probably Odiomukana. Thank you.
Thank you, Daddy Seth from Nungwa. Techi is in Kaswa. Techi, good morning.
Yeah, I think we should stop investing so much in the top of football. You know, we have to go to the local teams, to the House of Folk, Kotoko. Whenever they rise, that's when the Black Star will rise. Because I remember somewhere in the early 2000s when House of Folk and Kotoko were playing at the Confederation Cup final. That was when we were getting, quality players into the Black Stars, Samuel Jan and all that. I remember as a child, I used to listen to I think it was Kinafama Premier League. And a guy like Samuel Jan who be playing for Liberty, you hear that he's scoring goals, he's dribbling here and there. Liberty wasn't a fancy team, but you could see that the quality of the league was high. Now it's very low, so you can't get players from there. Once you can't get players from there, all these guys, bogus, you can't do much with them.
Thank you for sharing, Techi. All right, let's go to Abekan La Paz. Hello, Richard. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Coach. Thanks for the opportunity.
30 seconds, please.
My difficulty is with why the coach decided to weaken us when we were directly with the momentum, okay? Because I felt at 1-1, we could easily have, gone 2-1 up. Because our pacey wingers kept doing the job, and all of a sudden I saw 3 players lined up around the 60th minute to come on, and I was like, what was happening here? Because I saw Iñaki, I saw Dede, I saw these other guys who I felt weren't necessarily the fastest. And overall, I think that was a poor tactical decision. And whether the coach was projecting our opponent's interest above ours, I do not know. Because it left us having to defend or be defensive for the rest of the game, eventually leading to the concession of the goal. And it all doesn't make sense to me. The coach has questions to answer for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Richard. All right, we have time for one last caller. This is Bismarck in Tema. Bismarck, 30 seconds. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Kojo. Hello?
Yes, we're here.
Yeah, this is Bismarck. Kojo, if the people, they fear that first our scores don't do the right thing, we will never, ever succeed in this country. Not football alone. and see the money the government come, government go, see the money they are invested on this Black Star. They are not bringing anything. And look at our hospitals. And look at the country. Every day, Black Star, and they are not doing the right thing. Knowing very well that the coach knows good, they will bring the coach. They know very well that the tanker director they brought him for Azerbaijan or whatever they call is no good. They will bring him. And at the end of the day, nothing happens in this country. And you allow people, they will talk, nothing. They have to forget about this Black Star and use the money for a better thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you who called us. We appreciate your inputs. This matter.